Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arena of Aurethious podcast. I am Al Basler, aka Aurethious, and on this episode, we're going to be sitting down and talking with my cousin, Ian Forts, about the divisional round of the NFL playoffs mostly. It's going to be an interesting little conversation. A crazy slate of games last weekend. I wasn't planning on doing another episode on football so quickly, but after the way that those games played out, we had to talk about that. Couldn't ignore that. I mean, that some people are saying it might have been the best round of playoff football ever. So, very interesting conversation. Just to introduce Ian a little bit before we actually get into the conversation. Like I say, he's my cousin, but growing up, I mean, he's probably the closest the person I've ever had to as a sibling. I'm an only child, but we were very close growing up. You know, he'd spend weekends over my house, playing video games, doing a lot of sports, and it's always fun for me to catch up because we don't get to hang out or catch up as much as we once did when we were younger. So it's always fun for me to sit down with him and catch up on things, and especially talk sports since we're both really, really big sports fans. So I don't want to waste too much time. This is, like I said, it's a fun conversation that I had. Hope you guys will enjoy it. And let's get right to my conversation with Ian. All right, welcome back to the arena. And we are being joined by my cousin, Ian Forts. What's going on, Ian? How you doing?
I'm good, Al. How are you? Long time no see.
I know it's weird. It's this whole like COVID thing and being an adult thing and all that fun stuff.
It's more the adulting than
yeah,
more the adulting.
yeah. At this point, but knock on wood. But anyways, so we're here to discuss the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. But before we do get into that, I always like to kind of give everybody a little bit of an intro on who I'm talking with, especially if they haven't been here before. So just to give people a little bit of a primer, so Ian is my cousin. Obviously we go way back, but I mean, we were both like, not that we aren't now, but we were both real tremendous, huge sports fans growing up, and we'd Madden leagues that we'd play together. I miss those so bad. Like couch co-op Madden was so fun for like
Yes.
franchises and stuff. Going back further than that, the time that we did a audio recording of made up NBA All-Star game. Like we literally took we just kind of winged it when we were actually like recording it. But like I think I did the Western Conference possessions and you did the Eastern Conference possessions.
Yeah.
We just came up with this whole, I mean, it wasn't like a full like 4-quarter length, but I mean, it was I don't know, it's probably like a half an hour or something crazy like that. And we at one point we tried to create our own Stratomatic basketball.
That was so bad.
So if anyone doesn't know what so Stratomatic baseball was this like tabletop game that you would play, and this was back. I mean, I don't know when it started. It was definitely around in the 80s. It was probably around in the 70s.
Yeah, it probably started in the late 70s.
I probably should look that up, but I don't want to be bothered. But you would have cards representing all of the players, and it was basically baseball nerd version of Dungeons and Dragons, where you would roll dice, and whatever happened on whatever the dice, you would correspond to the card, and that would determine what happened for that particular at bat. And it was pretty popular back in the day. I mean, this was before like video games were really a thing for any of this stuff. So we tried to kind of recreate this with basketball. Like we literally sat there, and I think it was like NBA Live 95 or something like that, because it had all the players' stats in it. So we tried to base the things off of like their stats. So if like someone was like a really good 3-point shooter, we'd put extra 3-pointer things on the card.
Miller.
Oh man,
that's right.
What a couple of nerds we were.
If you rolled a 1 or a 2, he missed the 3, but anything else, he got it.
But yeah, so that's kind of our background as far as like we've always been huge sports fans. Still are to this day. Maybe don't get to watch necessarily as much as we might like to these days, but we keep up. We keep up.
Yeah, we watched the first Pat Super Bowl together.
That's right.
Yeah, Parker.
Yeah, that's right. That might be some foreshadowing because I'm working together with him on getting him on here too. So I don't want to spoil too much because I don't want to let the cat out of the bag before it's locked down. But that next week's episode could be really interesting.
I'm sure it will be.
But yeah, we watched the first Patriots Super Bowl win together in 2000.
Yeah.
Well, technically 2002, but that's actually one of the only Super Bowls that the Patriots were in that I actually watched with a few people. Like, I'm typically not someone who really enjoys watching games like that in a group. Like with like a couple of people, like having you and Parker over, like that's totally fine. But like people who go to like Super Bowl parties, I can't stand it because there's always so much chit chat going on, and I just want to focus on the game. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I don't even like going. I don't like necessarily even going to games live as much.
Yes, especially with football.
Yeah.
What was it? Super Bowl 49? Was that Seahawks and Pats?
That sounds right.
I watched that at home by myself. It's so much better because you're just intense on the game. We were at a party for the 28-3 game.
Oh, the Falcons?
Yeah. So there was a lot of like bickering and stuff during the first 3 quarters. And then as everything's happening, I'm trying to watch the game, and then everyone is just making all this noise. I'm like, but you had to wait to the end. And then when it was at the end, then it's just like,
yeah.
But I agree. I like small, just in general in life, I like small gatherings. So
yeah, I think I mentioned it. I don't know if I mentioned it on last episode or if it was the intro one I did. I think it was the intro because I talked about my Twitter because I promoted my Twitter, and I don't tweet very much. I'm trying to get better at it because I'm like, who cares what I have to say? Yeah, here I am with a podcast. Here I am with a podcast. So maybe that's not the best way to sell myself. But so I don't tweet that much outside of usually like plugging like, hey, by the way, I'm going live on Twitch right now. So I'm trying to get better about like just tweeting other things to give people like a reason to actually follow. Otherwise, like, what's the point? But I noticed that like during a Patriots game, I don't want to sit there on my computer or on my phone and like tweet because like there's the people on social media, and you probably have a few. Facebook is especially guilty of this. They post something after like everything that happens in the game.
Yeah.
And it's like it's somewhat obnoxious. And it's like, okay, I think I joked once that social media is basically, hundreds of play-by-play commentators on like a 30-second delay. Because the play will happen, and then they'll all get on their phones or whatever and talk about mention what they just saw, and it's like, yeah, we're all watching the game, we all just saw it. Like, unless you have something particularly like insightful or witty to say about it, what's the point?
Like, are you getting joy out of that? Like, isn't it? I don't know. I just rather watch the game, and
I guess if you're that
feel like.
Go ahead. Yeah. If you're that kind of person, like you probably just go to like a bar and watch with other people.
Yeah.
Like watch with a group of friends. Like if you feel the need to like interact like that. But I'm to the point where like I watch these like I said, if I have a rooting interest in the game, like I'm watching the game intently.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like take a second to like comment on this. I did a little bit with the Bills-Chiefs game this past week because I don't have a rooting interest. I don't have a dog in the fight, and that was certainly a fascinating way that game ended. We'll get to that, but
yeah, I didn't have a dog in the fight, but
yeah, that's the thing is I just
every outcome was what I wanted.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I did last episode. I tried to do some like predictions or whatever for the divisional round games, and I missed them all except for the Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs, but I missed the others. I missed all of the other ones badly too, because I was like, oh, like Packers and the 49ers. I'm like, oh, the 49ers are gonna get the doors blown off of them, and it's like, well, that's not exactly how that went. But yeah, I don't like watching in games in groups of people. It's just, I don't know. I get annoyed. Like it's one thing if you're watching with a bunch of really intense sports fans who are like watching it, I guess. But you inevitably have people who just aren't that interested in the game, and whatever, they don't have to be. But like, I just want to focus on this right now. Like, I don't.
No, or you get in those group situations and all these people are talking to you about sports and they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, there's that too.
Oh,
There's definitely that.
We have a friend. I won't say their name in case they actually watch this. And they talk like they should be on EEI or the Sports Hub, but they have no idea what they're talking about, and that frustrates me a lot.
I find you get two people. You get two types of people that are in that same vein. You get the people who talk like they know what they're talking about and they really don't know what they're talking about, and then you get the other side of that, which is the people who just regurgitate whatever they heard on either sports talk radio or Sports Center or whatever show they watched or listened to, and it's basically like, yeah, I tuned in, I heard what Felger said. I don't need your same version of it. Like,
well, I think like you talk about Twitter and Facebook, and I just think it's the way society works now. Like, just the group think. If you can't think for yourself anymore, you got to get it from somewhere, and to feel like they're in, they'll regurgitate that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand why Felger and Mazz are as popular as they are, because it's a very negative show.
Yeah, I agree. So if you're not from the Boston area, New England area, Felger and Mazz is Michael Felger and Tony Maserati. They are the afternoon drive talk show on the local sports station of record. Actually, there's two. But on 98.5 the Sports Hub, and I mean, they do great ratings. People tune in constantly, but like Ian just said, I mean, I go back and forth sometimes. I don't know if like they're just contrarian by nature, or if like, because I think a lot of times people accuse them of like playing up or just playing that side.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something to that. I don't know, but I mean, they are, for the most part. I mean, it's even like when things are going good, they'll find the things to like nitpick at, and it's
of course he does, Mike. Of course he does.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
No matter how well the Pats are doing, there's always some side angle Belichick's trying to do, and my wife tells me she hates to watch the news, and I watch the news, and she's like, "Why it gets you so mad?" And I think maybe that's just the way with how people watch or listen to sports talk radio. I sort of like to hear the other side, even if it makes me angry. So maybe that's the draw, because then it brings out the argumentative, combative nature that people have.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to, I like Rush and Keith on EEI, but they're pretty much what every Joe Blow fan of the Patriots is. So there's nothing really new there.
Yeah.
It's just entertaining. Whereas Felger and Mazz gives a place for people to channel their fandom at someone. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said for that, because, you know, I kind of agree. I think they do slant maybe a little bit too much on the negative, because I'll get I work usually when I actually go into the office. I get out of work at 3:00, so it's an hour into their show, and I don't want to tune into them after like a Patriots loss.
Oh no,
because like, not that I don't want to hear about the Patriots losing. I watched the game. Like I understand that, losing happens, but it's just the like I don't need to hear the way that they just like eviscerate everything about it, and it's like, I don't know. I also don't like the rah rah homerism either. Like there's two sides of the coin, and ideally you want something somewhere in the middle. But yeah, it's it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. But all right, why don't we get into these games from this past weekend? This was a real interesting slate of games.
Weekend of football ever.
I mean, I don't know.
A little bit of hyperbole.
I don't know if I want to go that far with the hyperbole, but it was pretty good. And a lot of people complained after the wild card round about how bad some of those games were. And this week was a complete 180 from that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take it from the Saturday games first. So the early Saturday game was the Bengals and the Titans. This was kind of a shock. To me it was a shock. I kind of thought the Titans were going to be the ones coming out of the AFC. I thought that they were kind of getting healthy at the right time, and we're going to be able to kind of roll at least through Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati's good. Let's not discounting the Bengals. I thought they were going to kind of roll through them, and then I expected them to have a good clash with the Chiefs. But I think the thing that maybe got overlooked is the quarterback situation for Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill did not have a good game, to say the least.
He did not.
I mean, it's always tough when your first pass gets picked off. And it didn't get much better from there. And I think maybe the first takeaway from this game is, what does this mean for the Titans going forward? Can they get over into that next level, I guess, with Tannehill at quarterback? I mean, we've seen teams in the past centered around defense and a quarterback who doesn't screw up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've the classic one is the Trent Dilfer Ravens. Teams like that, where you have a quarterback who just doesn't make the mistake. But the problem is that it seems like Tannehill's not that guy.
No, and I think if I was them, I would look elsewhere. Remember the thing about Tom Brady came out and he said that he spoke to the coach and was like, "Oh, you're picking that MFer over me."
And a lot of people thought he was talking about Vrabel and the Titans.
Yeah. Imagine if he had gone to Tennessee.
Oh, I think you're talking about them right now hosting the AFC Championship game and possibly the odds-on favorite to go to the Super Bowl.
So then I think they need to look at Tannehill's not the guy. He's not going to be the guy. That pick he threw at the end of the game to set up the Bengals final field goal.
Yep.
It's a bad play.
Yep.
He didn't see the safety. So
the problem that the Titans have with this situation is that they just re-signed him for a rather ridiculous sum of money.
Do you think he's better? Do you think Kirk Cousins is better than him?
Oh, that's tough. I feel like that's two sides of the same coin with those two.
I was just trying to think if you could, because of the salaries.
That's the problem, is that, and I heard this mentioned, I don't remember the exact number, but the amount of dead money on the cap, even if they trade Tannehill, is really bad. No, I'm sorry. Not if they trade him. If they trade, because if they trade him, the other team takes on that contract.
It's the cut.
But they can't cut him. So now you have to find somebody to trade him, which means that typically, you're probably trying to find someone who, I mean, needs a quarterback, but why would they want Tannehill? I mean,
yeah.
I guess the only comparable, and it's weird because you don't often see these like position for position trades, but we did see one last offseason with Stafford and Goff going from the Lions and the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And you could maybe work something like that, but then again, it's like, how much of an upgrade are you actually getting? I mean, you can say that. I mean, the Rams worked out great for the Rams getting Stafford over Goff.
Yeah, it's not like Seattle's going to take
Tannehill
and 2 first-round picks, or it's just not enough.
I mean, I guess you could be looking at one of those type of situations where you have a guy who is basically wants out, and you don't want to let him walk for nothing, and you kind
What
of
about
work something like
Houston?
that. Houston's
Well,
weird. I mean, it feels like Watson's out the door. That could be an option, I guess. I mean, if Houston's intent on not bringing him back, I just realized. Go ahead. I don't
what?
know. I realized I forgot to change the episode number on the screen. I'm going to do that while we're doing this on the fly. Professional here. Professional.
So yeah, I think their ceiling is probably the AFC Championship game with Ryan Tannehill as the quarterback. And actually, they should have won this game. Like, I forget the running back's name. Please hold. What's his name?
For the Titans?
Foreman.
Yeah.
Foreman was averaging over. He only had 6 rushes, four carries, but he, other than his long run, he averaged like 5.5, 6 yards a carry. Henry just didn't have it that night. He wasn't ready. And they kept running him.
I think hindsight being 2020, they probably rushed him back. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, it makes sense if you think he can play, you think he can give you. I mean, in theory, you would think maybe even like 75% of Derrick Henry, you'll take that.
But the rushing game was fine with Foreman.
Yeah,
they were still a great rushing attack, and once they saw that Henry didn't have it, they should have
stayed with him,
sat him down, went with Foreman.
I mean, you look at there was two plays in that game where you would think 9 times out of 10 the Titans are gonna make this. They had the 2-point conversion that they went for after there was a penalty. It was like, they were setting up for the extra point, and Cincinnati got called for 12 men in the huddle. Mm-hmm. Which, like, how does that happen on an extra point? But so Tennessee elected to take the extra yard from the 2 and go for 2, right. And they got stopped. And then there was a 4th down, a 4th and 1 later in the game.
They hand off to Henry?
And they handed off to Henry, and he got stopped like 2 yards behind. It wasn't even close. So it's, I mean, typically speaking, if you're all other things being equal, you look at the Titans and you're like, you got Derrick Henry, that's a no-brainer. You probably get that. I mean, I still don't necessarily agree with the 2-point conversion decision, especially at that point in the game. It was early in the game. It was in the first half. And I mean, I always hate when coaches start chasing points like that in the first half. It doesn't make sense. Like, I get it. You from the 1, you think you have a better shot than from the 2, but it was just.
So what's your thought on we're talking about 4th down conversions? The increase in how many times people are going for it on 4th down now.
I think it's just an indication of where the league is at as a whole, where offense, by and large, dictates the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of teams that play good enough defense to make a coach be concerned about a 4th and 1, a 4th and 2. Sometimes you give teams going like 4th and 5.
Yeah.
But 4th and short yardage, whereas, 10, 20 years ago, that was like an instant send out the punting unit or send out the field goal team if you're in range. Now teams are just like, oh, we can make this no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at teams. We'll mention it when we get to the game, but like teams like the Chiefs and the Bills, like you have quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. You have so many options at your disposal to pick up a potential 1 or 2 yards that you feel comfortable doing that. Whereas, maybe it is partly just a byproduct of the way the quarterback position has evolved over recent years to that, now the quarterbacks like Tom Brady, Mac Jones, those guys that just kind of stand in the pocket and do their thing, they're the more rare occurrences now. Mm-hmm. And you have these guys that are moving around the pocket and constantly making plays with their legs. Maybe that's part of it. It just gives an offense more options. I mean, you can hand the ball off. You can do the dreaded RPO.
Yeah.
You have the quick routes to the receivers. But I don't know. I think that's what it is. I don't know what the percentages are as far as whether or not they're making more, if like as a whole, if they're making more or if they're just attempting more. But it does definitely does feel a lot different than it did. Like I said, even 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, if I had Josh Allen and I was on the plus side of the 50, it was 4th and 3 or less, I'd almost go for it every time.
I think that's also a thing too. For whatever reason, like kicking I don't want to say has become a lost art, but I feel like kicker accuracy has plummeted.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is not just a thing on extra points because whatever they moved extra points back, you're going to miss more because they moved them back. But I feel like as general, like kickers are not as reliable as they were in like the 80s and 90s and even early into the 2000s. It seems to be a more recent thing than the last several years.
If you're not Tucker or Folk from the last 2 years, or was it Butker? Is that his name? In Kansas City, their kicker.
Oh, Butker, yeah, Harrison Butker.
Like, unless you're a handful of those guys, it's not the days of Moore and Anderson and what's his name? Who's the barefooted kicker for the Pats back in like '86? What was his name?
For the Pats?
Yeah, he had the barefoot Tony.
I don't remember. You looking it up?
I'm gonna look it up right now. But yeah, it's because they're not spending the capital to get kickers. They're all undrafted, and then just hoping that one kicks, like Quinn Nordin.
Tony Franklin.
Tony Franklin. He was barefoot.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
That's actually a little bit before I started watching. So.
Oh, see, my first Patriots memory, actually my whole sports memory starts '86. I was at my aunt's house with my dad, and in the kitchen there was a small black and white TV, and it was the Bears, it was the Dolphins in the past game.
The AFC Championship?
Yep. And then the second sports memory, earliest ones I remember is Game 6, Mets, Red Sox.
World Series. Yeah, the Bill Buckner game.
Yeah.
Poor Buckner.
I remember it right. I cried. I was like 9.
Yeah. That's brutal. That's pretty brutal. Again, I was only 5 then, so not as bad for me. But it's funny. I remember I had actually I didn't watch a ton then, but I actually remember I had a Skin the Bears shirt.
Squish the fish
in the Super Bowl. It was Squish the Fish in the AFC Championship,
yep.
And then Skin the Bears. Well, that part didn't work out.
That did not happen.
But yeah, so I think the other thing to just going back to this game is Cincinnati came to play. The Titans defense kept them in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think this Bengals team is dangerous. I don't know if I'm sold on them completely yet, but I think you can't discount them coming into the AFC Championship game. They've got a good offense. They've got a ton of weapons on offense. Their defense, while they don't have a ton of household names on that defense, I mean, they do the job. Mm-hmm. They do a well enough job. Be interesting to see how they handle Kansas City, but I don't know. I think they're an interesting team coming into this.
They feel like that team that's fool's gold and is eventually like Cinderella, lose the slipper. Like, I think they have the offensive firepower to keep up with Kansas City. But I don't know. You just go back to that. We'll talk about the Bills later.
Yeah.
So I think that changes everything.
Yeah.
So I would say they're on the same trajectory as the Bills.
I think that's fair.
Bills, so they might be like a year or two behind where the Bills are. They just happened to win their game last week.
Yeah. I think that might be a fair assessment. I think
because they seem to have more veteran leadership on defense, which I think it didn't show up at.
We're talking about Buffalo, or
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think statistically Buffalo was the number one defense in the league, correct? In scoring at least, and maybe also in yardage. So, yeah, I would agree with that. So, yes, we got Cincinnati. Moving on, the night game. I actually didn't watch much of this live because it was on too late. I hate the fact that they put a game on Saturday night. Like, I wish they would just do the same. Like, I didn't even like the Sunday schedule. I thought the Sunday schedule should have been 1 and 4, but
when did they change that? Because it's always been 1 and 4.
It might have been the last couple of years. I don't remember. Really, but I like Sunday's worse. But like I get it. They want Saturday night, whatever. It's fine. But so Saturday night's game, San Francisco and Green Bay. There's not really a lot to get to on this game. No. It was kind of there. I think the story is that Green Bay just, I don't know why I want to say didn't show up.
That's what it felt like.
Their special teams certainly didn't show up. I mean, you get a blocked field goal at the end of the half that actually turned out to be a huge play. You had a blocked punt in the fourth quarter, returned for a touchdown that basically put San Francisco back in the game. I mean, you looked at San Francisco had a 4th and 1 with about 6 minutes left, down 7, I think, and they missed it. And at that point, it's like, all right, now Rodgers is going to get the ball. They're going to basically milk this clock out. And then they basically went 3 and out, and I think that was where the punt was blocked. And it's just like, whoa, how do you let that happen? How do you like? I don't know.
I think there's going to be, in my comment, all 4 of these games, and this isn't somehow San Francisco won this game with how bad Jimmy played. Other than Deebo Samuel, they didn't really show beat on offense either.
Right.
You could say it's the elements, but
it wasn't that bad.
Green Bay. If Aaron Rodgers is the second coming, and to not throw a touchdown pass in that game,
I think that is the biggest takeaway from this game is where looking at it right now in 2022, where does Aaron Rodgers stack up? Like, what is his legacy? Because it feels like to me he has been consistently talked about throughout most of the course of his career as an elite level quarterback, as potentially the best quarterback in the league. People have mentioned him in the pantheon of great quarterbacks in history. And for what reason? I mean, yeah, he's won a Super Bowl. Okay, that counts for something. But he seems to be someone who, in these games, does not elevate. When it counts in the playoffs, he doesn't seem to be someone who can put his team on his back and elevate that team to that next level. And I mean, this Packers team was good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their defense was whatever. I mean, they held San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco. Not that San Francisco is a track team. I mean, Deebo Samuel is, but I mean, their defense is fine. It's not like it's a team that is all offense and has no defense. But like you said, for him not to throw a touchdown pass, whatever. Touchdown pass as a stat can be kind of overrated because whatever. As long as you get the ball in the end zone, doesn't matter how it gets in there. But it's just the idea that you have the ball with 6 minutes left. All you need to do is pick up a few first downs, take several minutes off of this clock, and ice this game out. Or at the very least, force San Francisco to come back from down 7, drive the length of the field, and he can't get a first down. And again, that's not all on the quarterback, but there's got to be some percentage of that does go on his shoulders.
Isn't he basically just Dan Marino with one ring?
I think that's kind of fair. I mean,
Like,
different skill set than Marino, but I think
yeah, but
in essence, someone who has all the talent in the world. I mean, you can't argue the guy's talent. Like he's an
yeah,
excellent quarterback, but there is just something about being, and it's not like he's been on awful teams. Like yeah, there's been some down years with some of these Packers teams, but by and large, he's generally had the pieces around him.
yeah, and he's in the North, so that
Right,
division. People always talk about the AFC East, but the NFC North hasn't been that much better since he's
right.
as long as he's been there with the Packers. I just it was one of those games I'm watching and I can't. And I'm like, Jamie just threw that awful pick, and they're still gonna. And at the end, I'm like, wow, they still won the game.
Yeah, yeah, it's rough. I think I guess that was like I said, that was my biggest takeaway was that you know where does a game like this leave Rodgers? Because I mean, I think next year is going to be interesting. He obviously wants out of Green Bay. I don't know where he winds up. I think a lot of people are saying that Denver might be the landing spot for him. Where I guess
Because
they just signed his I don't know if his offensive coordinator or
I
his
think it's his
quarterbacks coach,
OC.
something
Yeah,
like that. They just brought him in to be the head coach, so seems to be an obvious landing spot. Denver needs a quarterback, but I don't. I mean, that's a good Denver team too. If you add him to it, but
just say you're him. Do you really want to go to the NFC? I mean, the AFC West, and have to go through Mahomes twice, and up and coming Hebert twice, and probably Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess
No,
I don't
my
know. I don't know
opinion,
where else he lands though, unless
Steelers. Steelers.
I guess that's yeah. I mean, but then I mean, you look at the idea of who doesn't want to go into the AFC West. Not that the AFC North are necessarily all world beaters, but now you've got Cincinnati there, and
Yeah,
that's going to be a team for the next several years. Baltimore is always a tough
yeah,
team
they're
to
always
deal
a tough
with.
out.
Cleveland is kind of a wild card. They feel like they have flashes at times. So I don't know. I mean honestly, by and large, I feel like things like this are good talking points for people like us who want to sit here and talk about them. I don't know if it ever factors into anyone's decision on where they want to go. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's like this is what they actually think about. How much are you going to pay me? Uh, who am I working with? Like, can I deal with who I'm working with? And
Oh, so
maybe
just like the rest of us,
maybe the city that I'm going to be in, maybe that factors
maybe.
in. But I
In
mean,
the NFL, not so much. I don't think.
I agree with
I think
that.
other sports, yeah, but no, I don't
I
think in
agree
the
with that.
NFL.
So
Um,
I don't know.
but you were talking about salary. If I had to put money on it, and I don't gamble because that'd be bad. Um,
I don't
I
gamble
bet
because
you
I just mentioned how bad my predictions went for last week, so that's why I don't gamble.
um, I bet you he stays in Green Bay this year, and then next year when the cap goes up, and he's a clean and free agent. He could do like the Dion thing and Deion Sanders and be like a 1 year rental for like 50 million.
Basically, just be a mercenary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the craziest idea in the world.
I mean, he dressed up like John Wick for Halloween. He thinks he's an assassin. Why not pay him?
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the more interesting stories in the offseason is what happens with him. Does he stay? Do they trade him? Where does he end up? I mean, the quarterback situation, and I don't want to go too far into this since we still got a few games to go over, but I mean, the quarterback situation going into next year is going to be interesting. You've got Rodgers potentially on the move. Deshaun Watson is kind of a wild card.
Russell Wilson.
Brady possibly retiring. Russell Wilson possibly leaving Seattle. I mean, just not forgetting about Brady. That's going to be a situation that handles itself. But those three guys, Rodgers, Watson, and Wilson. When was the last time that you possibly had three quarterbacks of that caliber available? No, obviously not on the open market, but available to be had in an off season. I can't think of.
I don't think it's ever happened. At least not that I can recall.
Not that, in recent memory. We can't.
Well, it's also, you remember, we got one guy who thinks he's above everything, and then we have one who wants to be a superstar in a big city, so he's forcing his way out like an NBA player. And then we have another guy who has trouble with the law. I don't know if we've ever seen quarterbacks, these high-profile positions, either use their power to try to move or do something that has caused people to not want them to be there anymore. It's usually your quarterback is your stand-up guy that is the CEO of your team and does all this good stuff and is there forever. And it's probably going to become the norm more than we want it to be as sports fans.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. And you just have to kind of resign yourself to the fact that these guys are going to move around. I mean,
yep, no more. I know who I used to like? Tony Eason. Remember Tony Eason?
You're the one.
I'm the one. I remember when Bledsoe got 11. I was like, you can't give him 11. That's Tony Eason's number.
Yeah, it's just I mean, I hated the fact that Tom Brady did not finish his career with the Patriots, but I think that was like an inevitability with the personalities involved between him and Belichick, and it's professional sports in the 2000s. These guys having someone who starts and ends their whole career with one team is now by far the exception to the rule. So, it's a shame in some respects, but I mean, I don't begrudge anybody for it. I mean, these guys need to do what they feel is best, and
yeah, I just think as fans, we just got to become more accustomed to actually rooting for the laundry and not who's wearing the laundry.
Yeah.
At least when, like, you can always root for your favorite players and who's on the team, but I think you've got to come with the mindset that every September for the NFL or March for baseball and the fall for basketball and hockey, the rosters are going to be different.
Yeah.
And your favorite player might not be there anymore.
Right. It's been a joke here. So Ash, for a few years, kept asking for a Sony Michel shirt. For some reason, she just picked Sony Michel as her favorite Patriot. I don't know why. And then all of a sudden they traded him, and she's like, "Oh, I'm glad you didn't get me that shirt." And it's like, yeah.
So, Sony Michel, out of all the
I don't know. She was never a huge football fan, and it was his rookie year, I think, that she really started watching the Patriots. So I don't know if it was because he was a rookie, and he had a pretty good rookie season. So I don't know.
Playoffs, he had a great playoff run.
Yeah. That was the thing. Her first real year watching the Red Sox, they won the World Series, and her first real year watching the Patriots, they win the Super Bowl. I had to be like, listen, kid.
Has she watched hockey yet?
No. Maybe she's not a big. She's tried. She's not a big fan of hockey, but I'm like, listen, kid, this is not how it works. The team does not win a championship every year. But yeah, so yeah, quarterback situation is going to be interesting going into next year. But we do still have a few things this year to deal with first. Speaking of the aforementioned Tom Brady, the Rams and the Bucks. So yeah, this was. I mean, we mentioned the Falcons game, and this kind of became a little bit of a meme on social media in the midst of the game. Before we get to the actual game, I do have to say, do the Rams have the ugliest jerseys in football?
Ugliest jerseys in football, huh?
So here's the thing.
We're just talking the normal ones, right? Not like throwbacks.
I'm looking at the blue ones that they wore on Sunday. I don't hate the color scheme. I like the fact that they got away from the gold and they went back to the traditional yellow, like the blue and yellow,
Hmm.
basically
Yeah,
from the old Los Angeles Rams days.
yeah,
But the blended numbers, the yellow
yeah.
into the
It's not
white,
nice.
I don't know. It's like those stupid Jaguars helmets that they had. I don't think they still wear them, but the ones that were like the gold, the black, and then into the gold or
Hmm.
whatever. Like I don't know. Maybe this is just me being an old man, and I don't get what the kids think are cool for jerseys these days. But
Oh no, because
I look at a lot of the we talk about I miss the old Titans uniforms. Like when they first became the Titans, I liked those Titans uniforms. And now it's just like they're just like the solid blue
yeah, it's
garbage.
not.
But
Maybe it's because we're old men now.
I think
But
so.
like those
But I just
classics.
I
If
just
you could bring back Pat the Patriots,
oh
that would
I
be a
am I
gem.
am I am 100%. They need to get rid of the current jerseys. I hate the current Patriots jerseys, and
Hmm.
they need to go back to the red and white.
Yeah,
I would even be fine if you didn't bring back that old Pat Patriot logo.
just I like the red and white's better than the
If they
blue.
go with the red and white, white helmet. You could even do some kind of a version of the current logo if you don't want to change the logo. But I love those red jerseys with the white pants. Like I think that's that's a clean uniform.
Yeah, I think the worst jersey might be the neon green Seahawks jerseys when they wear
Oh, though,
those
yeah, those
things.
those are. I'm so glad they got away from the color rush stuff
Yeah.
because
Well, the
some of
Pats new
those
uniform is basically
I
color
know,
rush.
and that's why I am not a huge fan. And we're gonna get into like jersey talk here, but uniform talk. I'm not a fan of same color shirts and pants for football.
Well, yeah, it's like if you're making a superhero, you need to have negative space, a different color. Like Spider-Man isn't all red; he's got blues and blacks.
It's just yeah,
If
I
it
just
looks like a singlet, they should be in like a wrestling match.
I think very rarely does it work. Like I think sometimes black shirt, black pants can work, but even I'm not even a fan of that. Like I generally I'm pretty simple. I want like team colored jersey, talking about home jerseys for the most part,
Yeah,
and then either like white or whatever other, you know, you know, complementary color goes for the pants, whether it's
yeah.
white, black, gray, secondary team color, whatever. Like I don't know. I just the same color shirts and pants. I don't know. I'm not
The
a fan.
long Nike swooshes, like on the Denver pants.
Yeah,
I hate that. I hate that.
yeah. We're definitely reaching old man get off my lawn territory with this. But anyways, sorry. Uniforms aside, um, so first half of this game was a disaster for the Bucks. They couldn't do anything. The Rams did whatever they want. That Bucks secondary is atrocious.
Ugh.
Um, I think. I mean, Brady had no time in the first half to do anything. The interesting thing is that game was 20-3, 20-6, 20-3 at the half, I think, right?
23, right? I think so. Yeah.
Should have been 27-3 because Cam Akers put the
Hmm.
ball on the ground at the 1 yard line just before the half ended.
He doesn't do that. That game's over.
You could argue that. The only thing is, and because I rewatched the highlights of all these games just to refresh my memory on them today,
Hmm.
and I was curious whether because I knew it got to 27-3 because that's when the memes started hitting about Brady came back from 28-3
Yeah.
before 27-3 is nothing, and I was curious if the Rams got the ball to start the second half and then went down and scored that touchdown. They did get the ball in the second half, but they didn't score on that first drive. Because I mean, that would have been you talk about if that had happened, you're looking at like I mean, even whether they got it eventually, you're looking at 34-3,
Yeah.
and that almost seems insurmountable. But I think the weird thing about how this game played out is that this wasn't your typical comeback game
No.
where like you looked at that again. You bring it back to that Falcons Patriots Super Bowl where they were the 28-3 game. They had the turnover, the Hightower forced fumble on the sack that basically completely 180 the momentum of that game, and it was all Patriots from that point. This game, Tampa started coming back, but it wasn't like I don't want to say a clean comeback, because they came back in the game. But you had the Brady sack and fumble, which immediately was followed the next play by the ball getting snapped by Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
And Tampa got the ball back. So they ended up fumbling the ball and then ended up gaining like 15 yards on the next play. You had another fourth down a little bit later in the game. I think they were down 14 at this point. The Buccaneers were down 14. And Brady just kind of threw it up towards Mike Evans, and it was incomplete, but they had that personal foul call that ended up being called after the play, which I thought was really weird, the way that was called. Mm-hmm. I think by rule, again, when we go through all this, as Patriots fans, the whole Tuck rule, by rule, it was the correct call. You can argue that was a stupid rule, whatever. The fact that was essentially a bang-bang play. Mm-hmm. And because the ball had happened to hit the ground a split second before the contact was made, that's considered a dead ball foul. I mean, that was in the realm of the guy trying to make a play. So the fact that went against Tampa Bay, again, that's a rule I'm not super familiar with, but if that's the way that the rule is, so be it. It was a weird play.
It's just, I think about it and the refs, and they're gonna pull that little piece out of the rule book and get that one right. But all these other plays,
yeah, that's the other thing, and I think
it's so inconsistent.
I think I talked about it a little bit last episode when we talked about the Bengals. I talked about the Bengals Raiders game, where it had that play with the inadvertent whistle.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea of replay. And me personally, I am not a huge fan of replay. I feel like it's gone way too far, and we micro-analyze split seconds and fractions of an inch. And I never thought that that's what the spirit of replay should have been. Replay should always be there just to make sure that if there's a really egregiously missed call, that it's corrected.
Yeah, but in base.
If we're I hate it in baseball.
Like if it's this much into the glove,
right? Yeah, you see the guy goes to steal second, and it's like they're going slow-mo frame by frame to see if he tagged him. It's I think it's maddening. Like, why even have referees or umpires at that point? But like you look at this sort of thing, and it's like that's the sort of like thing that some of these games, and again, this call I don't think is one of them. Apparently, like, again, if that's the rule, they got it right. But you have to just make sure, and that's why, like, I just feel like you should have a replay official in the booth whose job is to pay attention to everything. If he sees something was obviously missed, buzz down and be like, "Hey, you guys screwed this up, fix it."
Yeah.
And just keep it as simple as that. The other thing about that particular call reminded me, I don't know if something like this is hereditary, but Sean Hockley explains every call as bad, if not worse, than his father did. I mean, this guy, his father was, I mean, it was kind of a meme for the way that he would do it, but like he just gets out and he explains everything, and it the only thing I don't like, I like the fact that I like the fact when referees give a thorough explanation to make sure that everything is clear, especially if it's something that's like not your typical run-of-the-mill play. But with guys like this, I feel like sometimes this is like, I got this microphone that I can push this button and talk to everybody in the stadium and everybody at home, and this is my show now.
Oh yeah, just like his dad.
And it's like, dude, just make your point and let's get on with the game. But minor
we don't need a legal brief on why you picked up the flag.
Yeah, minor point. So you had that, then the Rams missed a field goal that would have pushed it to 17, which basically would have at that point, we're talking about 6 minutes left in the game, and now it's a 3-score game. Like, that's virtually insurmountable. I don't want to say definitely, because we saw some strange things this weekend. Tampa Bay's next drive, they turned it over on downs. So you're down 14 with just under 5 minutes left, and the Bucs still came back to tie this game. So it was just weird. It wasn't just like the Bucs caught fire, then they came back.
Yeah.
Like, they had opportunities and they missed opportunities, yet they still managed to tie this game up. And then, how in the world do you let Cooper Kupp get over the top of the safeties with less than a minute to go and no timeout? It's basically, like, your one job in that situation is to guard the sidelines and make sure nobody gets past you. And you let their best receiver, the guy that you should be like, hey, they're probably going to throw the ball to this guy. We should pay a little bit of attention to him. And they let him in single coverage get through a cover 2 or cover 3 or whatever the hell they were running. I think they blitzed on that play too.
They did. And then Aaron said something where someone didn't get, I think it might have been Levante David didn't get the call. So they didn't have as much pressure as they were expecting.
But why are you blitzing in that situation?
I don't know. Isn't that what the vaunted prevent defense is made for?
And that's another thing. I think
between
teams,
this and the next game we're going to talk about, there were a bunch of defensive brain farts.
Yes.
The last 3 minutes.
Yes. This is one of my biggest takeaways from the first 2 rounds of the playoffs for the NFL this year is that, and maybe it's the case in the regular season, but it's not as noticeable or it's just magnified because of the stage in the playoffs. It seems like in the last 5 minutes of these games, defensive coordinators lose their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they just don't do the same things that they did. And I get it. You're factoring in the clock, you're factoring in the score, you're factoring in all these things. But in the end, you still got to play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't rely on the field to play defense for you.
No, and I think when you get into those modes, it'll creep into your defensive player's head, right? Like, we got 3 minutes. We're just going to make sure we don't do anything. We can be lackadaisical. As long as they're bleeding the clock, we really don't care how many yards they get. And it's not like it's the late 80s, early 90s, where each team has maybe one playmaker. Every team, except maybe the Patriots, have multiple playmakers who can break it on one play. So I still don't understand why they didn't at least have a safety over the top for Kupp, but
I mean, that's your job in that situation. I mean, you're talking about, I don't remember the exact time on the clock when the ball was snapped, but I mean, you're talking like 25 seconds around there, because they completed the long pass, were able to run up, spike the ball, and then kick the field goal. I mean, that's your job as a safety, is to just make sure that nobody gets past you. I mean, granted, it was a tie game and they did only need a field goal to win. So you do have to keep in mind, like, you don't want them obviously, just easily getting to field goal range. But that's what happened anyways.
But just have one safety back, just one.
Yeah. Yeah. It was,
you still have 9 up mid and the box. So
calling a blitz in that situation, I mean, I guess there is some logic there in the sense of, if we put enough pressure on the quarterback, he won't have time to get the ball deep enough where they can get the ball in a field goal range. I guess. But if you don't get there, this is what happens.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, heartbreaking loss for the Buccaneers after having come back into that game. And you would think that that's about as heartbreaking of a loss as you can get. Until
But before we move on,
Go ahead.
but that's another game where the team that won, should have probably ended at the end of the day lost.
Yep.
Crazy.
I look at the end of that game similar to the week before's game between the 49ers and the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
That final drive with the Cowboys, I felt like San Francisco was actively attempting to lose the game by allowing Dallas to just march down the field really quickly. And then Dallas was like, "Hey, that's really nice of you to do. That's really nice of you to do, but we're all set. We don't feel like playing another game, so we're gonna screw this up ourselves." Mind-boggling, but that was kind of how the end of this game felt. It was just the Rams
didn't want to win. Like
that's the thing that might get lost in this, because the Rams are a little trendy right now because they have a lot of talent on that roster. They made a lot of moves during the season, both in the offseason and during the season, to put themselves in a position to make a run at a Super Bowl. And that's all fine and well. And I don't know what the line is this week, but they probably should be favored over the 49ers by a fairly decent margin. But they damn near choked that game away.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the fact that Tampa Bay's defense was just so atrocious and they completely had a mind lapse on that play, I mean, you're most likely going to overtime, and then who knows what happens in overtime, as we all know.
It opened at 3.5.
Really?
Yeah.
Rams and 49ers. Wait a second. So that's mind-boggling to me. Look, this is why I don't gamble, because I don't know what Vegas knows, but that means that Vegas or whoever put that line in thinks that this game is essentially a pick'em.
Yeah,
because the Rams are at home, and it's typically worth about 3 points. So they think this is. I mean, again, what do I know? I thought the Packers were gonna wax the 49ers last week. And I think the Rams should win this game fairly easily.
Yeah, but maybe Vegas knows what you just said.
Yeah.
Everyone is so high on, and they know it's not that.
Yeah.
They know the Rams they didn't blow doors.
And I don't want to sell the 49ers that short, and we can get to this when we'll take a little bit I don't want to go too far into the conference championship games, but we'll preview them a little bit. We'll get to it then. Let's talk about the other game on Sunday. Chiefs and the Bills. Some people are calling this one of the greatest games of all time.
It's the greatest 5 minutes of all time.
I think you can argue this is one of the craziest endings of all time. I don't know if I would necessarily call the last 5 minutes or so of the fourth quarter good football, but it was entertaining football. It was entertaining as hell. Yes. That's for sure. There's really not a ton to talk about early in this game. I mean, both teams basically, pretty evenly matched throughout most of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills came back late in the fourth. I have no idea how Davis got so open on the go-ahead touchdown that Allen threw to him.
Oh, that guy! He broke that guy's ankles like he was Tim Hardaway.
I mean, it was just like, it was crazy. Everybody went nuts about Josh Allen, and I don't want to sell Josh Allen short. I know some people have been slow to come around on Josh Allen. You can probably count me as one of them. He had a fantastic game, but that was Josh Allen just playing catch with an open receiver. Let's not go crazy on that play.
Like, he's extremely talented, a lot better than I thought. I thought he was going to be. I think some of those last before the Gabriel Davis wide open touchdown, the previous couple of drives before that, they were brutal. Like, it was fourth down after fourth down. They were like slogging down. Like, it almost seemed like Kansas City's defense was getting tired more so than. Buffalo was.
That is an understated part about, I think, facing the Bills is I think that because of Allen's skill set and the way that their offense is, I think having to defend that kind of an offense for an entire game can be extremely taxing on a defense.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have very good receivers. Your secondary has to be on top of their game. They have a decent enough running game with their backs. They're not great, but good enough. And the Josh Allen factor of having to worry about a quarterback who can do what he can do with his legs is enough to make a defense, run ragged over the course of a game for sure. So Buffalo gets that touchdown, takes the lead, and then almost immediately, Kansas City goes back and gets that long touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill. Only thing I will say about that play is I'm baffled at the fact that they didn't call taunting on him on that play.
Yes, the peace sign.
He definitely gave the peace sign right in the as close to being in the face as someone can in that kind of situation. But he definitely gave the peace sign to one of the Bills defenders as he was running by him towards the end zone.
I will never say anything nice about Tyreek Hill. I think he's an awful human being.
I was shocked.
To give someone the peace sign who's ahead of you?
Yeah, that's ballsy.
That's balls.
Yeah. I was shocked. I mean, some of the flags that we saw for like personal fouls over the course of the weekend, like especially in the Bucs game. Bucs had called for a bunch.
When Brady got
Brady got one for basically complaining about hit to the head.
Did Sue get one too?
Sue got one because he got a taunting call for getting in Stafford's face, and you could actually hear Sue on the referee's mic when he was announcing the penalty saying, "Did you see him kick me?" And I didn't get a good chance to see the replay, but I mean the commentators kind of I think Stafford kind of kicked him off of him.
Oh.
And so he got in Stafford's face. And then I think there was another one that was a little weird in that game for the Bucs too later, but I think it was like another defensive personal foul on that same line. But yeah, I was shocked that they didn't call taunting on Hill in that. Not that it ended up not mattering because it wasn't like that the extra yardage cost or not getting the extra yardage cost the Bills because then they went down and scored again.
Yeah.
With 13 seconds left.
Oh.
I mean, the game's over. It's
over.
However, they kicked the ball off, and this was second guessed about not squib kicking and forcing at least a second or two to come off the clock. Yeah. I normally under normal circumstances, I would say that's not a big deal. But when you're talking about 13 seconds on the clock, 1 or 2 seconds is kind of a big deal. Mm-hmm. So that's a legitimate second guess. The other interesting thing about this is that the Chiefs had all 3 timeouts at this point, going into this final drive with 13 seconds left. Andy Reid managed the clock right for the whole game, the whole second half, and didn't have timeouts. How did that happen?
I don't know.
I mean, that man is notorious for butchering clock management. And he managed to somehow have all 3 of his timeouts left, and they needed all 3 of their timeouts, or I don't think they only used 2 of them.
Like, I wouldn't have squib kicked it, but I would have made them catch it at the 5. Make them return it.
Right, because if you short kick it,
they fair catch it.
They gotta take it there, or you have to try and return it to get some yardage. And now you're killing 4 or 5 seconds at that point. So the fact that they just, I mean, the thinking is, there's 13 seconds left. There's no way they can get field goal range in 13 seconds, unless you're the Bills and you do not realize that they have all 3 of their timeouts. So you are guarding the sidelines and guarding over the top like you're supposed to do when a team has no timeouts. But they had all 3 of their timeouts. They hit, two plays down the middle of the field.
Yep.
got themselves into field goal range, and kicked a field goal to tie and send this game to overtime. I mean,
Dude,
how?
I thought about this, and then I heard someone was talking about it on the radio. My thought was, on that first play, just tackle everybody. Let some time run off.
Didn't the
take
Ravens?
The penalty.
Didn't the Ravens do something
Ravens
like that?
did that, and then they changed the rule that you could only do it once. If you did it a second time, it was unsportsmanlike. So
I think that only works on like the last, if it's going to be like the last play, because you still have to you do still have to defend a little bit there. Oh, you're talking about tackling the receivers
at the line.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right.
Like, don't give them at very least, don't give them free release, especially with Tyreek Hill and Kelsey.
I mean, I was anticipating going into that the only chance of anything happening there would be, the whole end of the game. We have to lateral the ball 15 million times and see what happens. And Patriots fans know that can still not work out in your favor.
I know.
But again, it goes back to that whole thing about defensive coordinators just losing their mind. Like, you cannot just allow them to get into field goal range like that with 13 seconds.
I hadn't heard anyone bring up the fact you just did about they were playing it like they had no timeouts. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, the entire middle of the field was open. And it's the idea of if that same situation happens and Kansas City either has no timeouts or like one timeout, then that is a perfectly acceptable way to defend that, because the only hope they have is to get some quick outs, hope to gain like 10 or 15 yards a pop, maybe get a couple of plays, and hopefully get yourself where you can maybe either throw a Hail Mary, or if you are lucky enough and you get close enough for like a 50, 60-yard field goal attempt. I mean, the fact that they got in position to make, like, I don't want to say like a chip shot. It definitely wasn't a chip shot, but that was not a tremendously long field goal attempt. I forget what the actual. It was like 49. Yeah, I mean, granted, almost 50, but still. I mean, again.
Yeah, I think on the broadcast they're saying he was hitting from 53 or 56 during warm up. So
it's
that
just
was
I
definitely in his range.
I don't know. And then, overtime, Chiefs win the coin toss and just go down and score. Which, I mean, with the way that game
won,
with the game that game, the last 6 to 8 minutes. I mean, if you want to count the overtime went, that's no surprise. Everyone stopped playing defense. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's the whole overtime discussion that everybody wants to have whenever something like this happens, and I get it. I agree to everyone always brings up the college overtime system, and I hate it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I essentially equate that to a shootout, and I hate shootouts. Like a shootout in like hockey or soccer or whatever.
Oh, it's the worst.
I always, as much as possible, want the game to be decided in the way that it's typically played. I'm not even a huge fan of the fact that, like, in hockey, they go to like 3-on-3 in overtime.
Yeah.
Like, it just, I mean, I get it. I get why they do it. It's fine. It's not the end of the world, but whatever. I think the easiest thing you do is you just guarantee both teams a possession, and then it's sudden death after that. This way, no one can say they didn't get a chance. I know it opens up the argument, like, if, let's say just using this game as an example, Kansas City wins the toss, they go down and score a touchdown. Buffalo scores a touchdown, and then Kansas City scores either a field goal or a touchdown. People are saying, well, Buffalo should have got another chance to match. And now I think you're just getting ridiculous at that point. The only other thing that I've heard, and I don't know exactly how it was proposed, but apparently Belichick had a proposal a few years ago when they were really first looking at changing the overtime rules. About
play like 7.5 or 10 minutes, right?
Play a full overtime quarter, but it was like a 10-minute overtime or something. Yeah. The only concern I would have with that is what do you do if it ends up tied at that point? Like in the playoffs, do you keep playing? You can't. With football, you can, like basketball, you could not, and again, not. It's just because of the contact nature of football. Like, not saying that basketball is not a physically taxing sport, because I certainly couldn't play it, but you can play multiple overtimes in basketball or in hockey, and it's different. Football, you couldn't sit there and continue to play multiple overtimes in football. So I think you would. I don't know what the actual proposal was and how it dealt with that aspect. I mean, I would almost think like you play a full overtime quarter and then you go sudden death after that.
Yeah, you'd have to, because especially in the play,
it would only be in the playoffs, because in the regular season it would just be a tie.
Oh,
but in the playoffs you would have to get a winner. So I think that's and I mean that seems reasonable and legitimate.
Because you couldn't keep going because it's a distinct disadvantage. Say you went like 3 extra quarters, then the next Sunday in the NFC Championship game,
right?
You basically played 3 quarters of a game.
Your team's gassed. You run the risk of some more injuries and all that stuff. But so I
less gimmicky, more real football. And
again, I agree with the fact I would like to see both teams get a possession in overtime. I think that is a legitimate concern. The one thing I will say about this game is, yes, the Bills didn't get a chance in overtime, but they did have a chance to not let up 16 points in about 5 minutes.
Well, that's my biggest thing, is play the entire game, and then at the end you're going to complain because you didn't get your turn.
Right.
You had 60 minutes. You had 13 seconds.
Yeah. Play defense for 13 seconds.
Yeah.
And this isn't a conversation. So, I mean, I understand it's a playoff game. It's a very high-profile game. It was a very exciting game. There were a lot of eyeballs on it, so it'll be a discussion. I think there was already word coming out that they were gonna look at the overtime rules again in the off season. I wouldn't be surprised if we see changes coming into next year, but it is hard. It's hard to look at that, and I mean, you could feel bad for Josh Allen, and you could feel bad for the Bills' offense, because they did everything that they could do to win that game, and the defense just didn't want to go along for the ride. But
I think they're going to come up with each team gets possession and sudden death.
Yeah, which I think is fine. I think it's totally fine. It doesn't reinvent the wheel too much, and
each team got a chance on offense and defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing too, is eventually you have to put some onus on the defense to actually play some football too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it isn't just like, oh, we need a chance with the ball. Yes, great. Each team gets a chance, but your defense is also on the field. Like, your defense needs to actually do something. So, again, I know it's sports in 2022, and everybody wants offense and everybody wants scoring, and nobody wants to see low scoring games. But I mean,
chicks dig the long ball.
Yeah, seriously. The only other thing I want to mention on this game is Josh Allen. So, great game. He showed up when it mattered. I know there are Bills fans who think that they now own the AFC East until he retires, which may or may not be true. But like I said, I give him all the credit. I think he's immensely talented. I think you can definitely put him in with the upper echelon of the quarterbacks in the league. My concern, if I was a Bills fan, quarterbacks like him are in danger constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that every running quarterback, because I think we've seen running quarterbacks. I don't think Patrick Mahomes falls into this category. I don't think Russell Wilson necessarily falls in this category. Josh Allen is a violent runner. He is a violent runner. He doesn't avoid contact. He tries to run through it to gain more yards, and I think it has the potential of coming back to bite him. Not saying I want to see it happen, but I would not be shocked if he suffered a nasty injury, because his size and the way that he runs, he is going to be inviting a defensive back to dive at his knees to take him down.
Yeah.
And that would be my biggest concern as a Bills fan, because all the other questions that you might have had about him seem to have been answered. He can make all the throws. He seems to read defenses well enough. And when in the big games, as he showed on Sunday, he shows up on big games, and he doesn't shy away from those moments, and he can come through in them. That would be my biggest concern, is that if he ever suffered a really bad knee injury, not to say that he couldn't come back from that, but that would be a tremendous hurdle for him to come back from with the way that he's getting. Do you think
the loss of Brian Daboll will affect his continued growth?
I don't know.
Or is he at that point where sort of after, like, not saying he's Brady, but after like 2004, 2005, it really didn't matter who the OC was. Is he still? Because people seem to love Daboll and what the job he did in Buffalo. So I'm just curious.
I think I would be pretty confident to say that I would feel comfortable with him at this point, regardless of who the offensive coordinator is. I think he's had enough time in the league to make those adjustments and show that he's not a system product.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, depending on who would be the replacement and what the offense would look like, if you wanted to install something different, if it was going to take some time for him to learn, and it almost as if like you go to a new team and you have to learn a new system, which I feel like if you're taking over that job, that you should probably just do what works.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's not something that needs to be fixed. So I guess, yeah, you never know until it actually happens, but I would think that at this point, I think he would be a pretty safe bet to be able to kind of continue on the trajectory that he's on, and not. I mean, maybe there's a slight step back if there's like new scheme and new system and new stuff that's introduced that he has to get used to. But all other things being equal, I think he's probably okay to handle that. Like I said, I would be deathly afraid of him getting hurt.
Right? They're gonna go at him like they go after Gronk.
Yeah. He's just, and again, I get it from a physical standpoint. He's big enough, he's strong enough to be able to run that way. But I think he's just gonna have to learn. He's gonna have to learn to slide when it's not. It's one thing. Again, it's one thing if it's it's like a crucial third down or a fourth down, and you need those extra 1 or 2 yards to get the first down. But when you're like 25 yards down the field or whatever, like you don't need the 27th yard. Just slide. Just slide.
Shit, that's a Dak Prescott.
Yeah. Yeah. Slide quicker, dude. So yeah, that's the divisional round. It was funny because they all came down to basically the last possession. We had 2, 3. Actually, was it 3? All 3 of them were walk-off field goals in the first 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
And then that crazy ending in Kansas City. It was funny because it was like each game got progressively better, like more exciting, and it was like, how is the next game going to top this one? I'll hold my beer.
Yes, exactly.
So I think we're set up for somewhat of an interesting conference championship. I think personally, I mean, I've already kind of talked a little bit about the NFC one, but we'll start with the AFC one. Bengals and the Chiefs. I feel like this should be Kansas City's game.
It should be like Kansas City 42-24.
I don't want to discount the Bengals because I feel like they have played well enough throughout the course of the season not to discount them. I feel like Kansas City is the better team. I think their defense should be able to do enough. I don't know. I don't want to every time, and I don't like the idea of saying, well, they're the Bengals, they're eventually going to screw it up, because I don't think that holds water. Like, these aren't the Marvin Lewis Bengals anymore.
Yeah, I hate the old time. Well, in the past 10 meetings,
Right.
well,
yeah. Well, who was the coach? What was the
Yeah.
team like when they met? 5-10 years ago. Yeah, it doesn't.
If I was Cincinnati, I would try to run Joe Mixon as much as I could. I wouldn't want to get in a shootout with Kansas City.
Yeah.
At least keep it close.
Yeah.
And if Frank Clark would jump off sides, give you a free first down,
and don't leave him 13 seconds.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we're kind of in agreement. I think Kansas. I don't know what the line is on this. I would have thought this would have been closer than the NFC game, but go figure.
I want to say it was 7.5.
That sounds reasonable to me. It feels like it should be a touchdown difference game for the Chiefs.
It's 7.5.
I mentioned this last episode. I can't believe Patrick Mahomes. I can't believe the stuff he gets away with, as far as like the plays that he makes.
Yeah.
I compared watching him to watching someone play Madden, because like he just kind of runs around and he just throws balls whenever he feels like letting them go, whether he's set or not. Shovels underneath, sidearm, whatever, however he wants to get the ball out, and it just shouldn't work, and it does. I feel like, and I mentioned this last episode, playing Madden punishes you more for the throws that he makes than he actually does in real life. Like the physics and everything shouldn't work, but it does.
I would love to see him with the Pats' offensive weapons. I'm curious.
And see it. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think by and large he has had
like he's
good weapons,
extremely talented.
But could he take a team that didn't quite have those weapons and elevate them?
If he didn't have Tyreek Hill, is he get in there in 13 seconds?
Did he throw? He didn't throw. I don't. Did Hill? I know Kelsey caught one of them.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't remember. But still, I mean, the point. I mean, the larger point stands.
Yeah.
I know. I definitely know for a fact one of those passes went to Kelsey. But
first and 10, 19 yards to Hill.
Okay. I mean it helps when you got someone that fast helping you get down the field a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, again, I'm not I mentioned this last time too. I'm not a huge fan of Travis Kelce. I think he's kind of a tool. So I don't like seeing him succeed. And Patrick Mahomes to me is Patrick Mahomes to me is annoying, and I think part of it is because of the commercials. I find him annoying. And I
he's the one I feel like I should hate, and he's the one I don't.
I can't hate him for his play on the field. I just, like I said, I find the commercials, the State Farm commercials, with him annoying. Like,
and I hear that his wife or girlfriend and brother are annoying on social media. I'm not really on social media.
I've kind of picked up on some of that too. I'm not a huge
TikTok.
Yeah. But like the State Farm commercials just drive me nuts. The one where the one where he's like pretending to be like a guy, a sneaker store worker. I'm just a typical sneakerhead, and it's like, oh my god, like these commercials don't make me want to buy State Farm insurance, and they don't make me want to support Patrick Mahomes because I feel like he's annoying in every one of these commercials. Aaron Rodgers kind of too, but like I kind of know Aaron Rodgers is a tool, so it doesn't but like I don't know. I feel like sometimes I don't know. I'm old. I'm old. It's old man territory again. Anyways, so yeah, we both kind of agree on the AFC game. NFC Rams and 49ers. Again, I think the Rams should win this one running away.
They should. I get a feeling they're not going to though.
Yeah. I mean, they were winning against the Bucs running away, and then the second half happened.
I think we're gonna get it.
Go ahead.
I think it's gonna be San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't know. I mean, I could see it being close because I've kind of underestimated the 49ers this entire playoff run, but I don't know if I can see I don't think I can see a scenario where they win outside of the Buccaneers just completely, throwing up on themselves. I mean, did I say the Buccaneers, the Rams?
Mm-hmm.
I look at what the Rams were able to do, especially in the first half against Brady and the Bucs. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that the offensive line did a particularly good job of protecting Garoppolo against the Packers. And the Packers don't nearly have the pass rush that the Rams do. I mean, I almost think it's unfair to have the amount of pass rushers that the Rams seem to have at their disposal now with the acquisition of Von Miller. So I don't know.
I'm probably totally off base. It's just a gut feeling.
I mean, hey, it's better. I mean, again, Vegas seems to think that this is almost a pick'em. So, I mean, there's got to be something there to that. I mean, I look at it on paper and I don't see how the 49ers can keep up with the Rams. But again, I've been wrong about the 49ers so far all playoffs. So, what would once more be anything different? So, I guess that kind of we would have different Super Bowl looks here. I mean, my Super Bowl that I talked about last week is completely gone. I thought it was going to be Tennessee and Green Bay. Or I thought it was either going to be Tennessee and Green Bay or Tennessee and Tampa. And none of that came to pass. So
I was thinking Bills and Green Bay.
Really? I was actually rooting, so if without the Patriots in it anymore, I mentioned I would have liked to see the Titans win. I thought that would have been a good story about how they overcame all the injuries. I like Mike Vrabel. I think it would have been good. As the games were kind of going on over the weekend, I was very much hoping for a Bills Buccaneers Super Bowl, if for no other reason than whoever would have won that would have significantly pissed Belichick off enough to have him go nuts in the offseason again. Because I don't
see the logic.
I
see the logic.
I don't want to say that the reason why the Patriots spent as much money as they did in the offseason last year was because Tom Brady won the Super Bowl. But
it was a little bit.
But Tom Brady won the Super Bowl and then they spent a lot of money in the offseason. Yeah. So I don't know.
As long as Kansas City doesn't win the Super Bowl, I'm fine.
I think out of the 4 teams that are left, I probably agree with that. Actually, you know what? I don't think I would really like to see the Rams win the Super Bowl. I don't know. I just feel like Los Angeles is such a fake sports town.
I know, but I'd like it for Stafford.
All right, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. But
you know what I would really like that would piss off everybody? Cincinnati, San Francisco. I think it'd be a good game, and I just think the network would hate it, and Sports Talk would complain about it.
Because of no Mahomes, and the Rams are definitely a sexier team to talk about than the 49ers.
Jimmy Garoppolo versus Joe Burrow. Instead of Stafford trying to get his first versus Mahomes trying to become the next goat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's interesting. I don't know. Yeah, again, I just...
An agent of chaos. I'd like to see the world burn.
So, not what you want to see. With the 4 teams left, who do you think's winning the Super Bowl? If you had to actually put money on it.
Yes, to Kansas City.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I think that's a smart pick. Again, I don't know if I necessarily want to see it, but I think if you're forcing me to put money down on one of these 4 teams left, I think you got to go with the Chiefs.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
I mean,
13 seconds. I'm gonna get that tattooed on me somewhere. 13 seconds.
Although we did mention this with the Rams, is that lost in the fact that they won the game was the fact that they almost choked it away. You can say the same about the Chiefs.
Yeah, true. They what? It was like 1:05 left when they were.
Yeah, 13 seconds.
Touchdown.
They let up the go ahead touchdown with 13 seconds. Like that game should have been over.
Yeah.
You could. I mean, you can argue. I also can argue. I mean, it's almost a virtual certainty that they should not be playing this weekend. It should be the Bills. But
yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it's not a foregone conclusion, but I mean, I think that's one of the maybe things you can kind of hang your hat on the Bengals and think that maybe they have a shot in this game. Because
I'm hoping.
I mean, their offense is, I would think on a similar level to Buffalo's, in a different sense. Like Burrow is not Josh Allen in the sense of the way he can run, but I mean, they got weapons on that team.
Score.
They got weapons on that team. So,
and they'll be confident because they beat him a couple weeks ago.
That's true too. That's true too. So, yeah, I think these games could end up being a little bit more interesting than they might look at first glance. But yeah, I think if you have to handicap it, I would say Chiefs are probably the favorite out of these 4, and then probably the Rams, and then I would say the Bengals and the 49ers. Even though you have the 49ers beating the Rams, but
yeah.
So anyways, so that's.
I just love Deebo Samuel. He should be number 19 on the Patriots.
Yeah, he's really dynamic to watch. So I mean, again, when you have a guy like that, and you can put the ball in his hands multiple ways, good things happen. So
just like N'Keal Harry.
Yeah. Oh, let's not get into that. All right. Well, we've gone a long time, so I appreciate it. It's a good conversation. I liked it. I liked it a lot. So,
very good.
We will see how these conference championships play out. I have promised some people that I'm not going to talk football on the next episode since I've done 2 in a row. So
what are you going to talk about next?
Most likely wrestling. And I'll leave it at that. I have until I actually have definitive plans to record. I don't want to say anything yet, but
okay.
But so that's my thought. But I mean, and I did mention this on Discord to people. I said I plan on not centering the episode around football, but if these games are crazy, I may have to at least address them in the intro. Since we've been talking about it, but no, this was good. I always love catching up with you and talking sports. It's always a fun time.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I'll
definitely.
If
you do a football one about the Super Bowl, you can count me in.
Hey, for sure. I mean, it's the Super Bowl. We got to talk about the Super Bowl. And it's like 3 weeks away.
Agency.
Yeah,
and that's Pat's free agency. Pat's draft.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be the new OC? Joe Judge coming back.
Oh God. Don't even get that's
Steve Belichick gonna cut the mullet.
Oh, there's so much crap to talk about with the Patriots. We'll annoy people with Patriots talk another time. But
I can do it a lot.
Yes, we can. So, well, I appreciate it, Ian. Thank you for coming on with me. This is awesome.
You're welcome.
Oh, I mean, normally I have you plug anything. I know you're not really active on like Twitter or anything. Do you have anything you want to
plug? My son is turning 4 in February 23rd. So if you want
4 already,
out,
Jesus,
it's gonna be 4. And just hope everyone is safe during the snow apocalypse tomorrow.
Yes, we're recording this right now on Friday, January 28th, and here in New England, we're supposed to get hammered with a blizzard tomorrow. We're supposed to be getting.
It could be the last transmission from the Eastern Seaboard ever.
Yeah, we're supposed to get like 2 plus feet of snow, which is ridiculous. So we're not looking forward to that.
Just think of the past. We're hosting the AFC Championship game this weekend.
Wow!
In a blizzard. So awesome.
They would have had to cancel that, I would think.
Not the NFL. What?
In a blizzard conditions, that's different. A little bit of snow is one thing. Blizzard conditions, There's no way. There's no way. God, what a story that'd be. But neither here nor there. But
Belichick did it again. He called Mother Nature.
all the narrative. But
Uh,
all right, Ian. Thanks again,
all right, my
and
friend.
we'll catch you later.
All right.
All right, there you go. That was Ian Forts, my cousin, talking some football with me. I hope you guys enjoyed our chat. That was again those were some really really crazy games that we witnessed this weekend. I don't. It's been a long time since I can at least remember a weekend of football that exciting. And I mean, this is talking to someone who didn't even have a rooting interest in any of the teams playing. So I mean, that was good. It was a good weekend for the NFL. Let's just put it that way. So a lot of fun stuff to discuss, and we'll definitely be looking to have Ian on again, like we talked about as we lead into the Super Bowl. So in a few weeks, we'll probably have a little Super Bowl, either Super Bowl preview or Super Bowl wrap up, one of the two, maybe both. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, so as always, guys, I'd just like to remind you if you're interested in catching up with any of my other content, you can catch me on Twitch. I stream typically every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday on Twitch at twitch.tv/Aurethious. You can also follow me on Twitter, like we kind of joked about during the conversation. I'm trying to get better with Twitter. It's at Aurethious on Twitter. And you can join us on the Ion Game Corner Discord server for a lot of gaming fun. The link is on the screen. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you're just listening to the audio podcast, it will be in the description of the podcast. We got a lot of great stuff going on in the Ion Game Corner. We got content creators doing all sorts of fun stuff on Twitch and YouTube, as well as community game nights generally on Fridays. And we have some organized events and leagues for Pokemon and other games as they come up. So definitely hang out with us. It's a good time. But yeah, I don't want to waste too much more of your time, guys. Thank you very much for listening. This has been a fun episode for me to do, and I look forward to catching up with you all on the next episode of the Arena of Aurethious.